Greetings, everyone. DFG here. Hey, guys, I just want to talk to you guys just a few minutes about something that's happening, and everybody's aware of it now, so this is it's not a secret. But I'm not sure, if some of us are thinking about it as critically as we ought to be thinking about it. And what I'm talking about is the impact of social engineering. And what I mean is that, we are being, asked to practice certain behaviors due to, the coronavirus, right? And the coronavirus impact that, it threatens to have upon, the mass or broad society. But in the meantime, what we may not be looking at least some of us may not be looking at, is, you know, when this virus scare is over with, which according to the president and all of his experts, uh, it will be gone in, some say a month, some say 6 months, some say 18 months, whenever they get a vaccine or what have you, whatever. The long and the short of it, guys, is that we are being conditioned to behave a certain way, so that when this virus, you know, um, epidemic or pandemic is over with, our behavior will be controlled in such a way that we will no longer have general access to the things that we need to have, and we will also be in a state of mind or preconditioned to accept it. In essence, when you start to, what I mean by this with social engineering, let's say if you're going into a Walmart store, they're saying 10 people can go in at a time, 10 go in, 10 come out. Now that seems rational if, again, there's a virus, right? But what happens if this is beyond just, a virus? Let me give you a scenario, something to consider. What if that those individuals who are controlling traffic in these buildings are controlling the traffic because they do not want a crowd of people inside their places at the same time recognizing the food shortages that are in these businesses? In other words, there's food today, but they're conditioning you now to accept, not only what's on the shelves in its limited quantities, and also what you can buy in its limited quantities. They're also getting you in a state of mind where that you're almost by yourself when you go through these experiences. Because if there are a limited amount of people inside of these places of business, then they don't have to fear panic. They don't have to fear, a product rush or a stampede onto product. They don't have to fear any of those things, because if there are 50 people in there together, then all 50 people are going to look around and say, hey, there's no bread in here. Or, hey, there's no chicken in here. Hey, there's no pork in here. Or whatever it is. You know how I feel about pork. I gotta always remind you that you shouldn't be eating it, but some of you do. But with 50 people, you're going to have mass hysteria, and you're going to have a lot of disgruntled individuals who could take matters in their own hand to being desperate about what's there, to really not be able to, for the leadership or the management or the people in control of these places, retail or whatever it might be, to manage that crowd. But at the same time, it's keeping you docile, because now you're becoming accustomed to not complaining about the little that you see. Because if you're only 10 or 20 or 30 people in there, who are you going to complain to? The guy that's 6 feet or 20 feet or 40 feet away? You're going to complain to yourself. And so my point is, as you become more preconditioned to think this way, when this food shortage is really hit, and it's going to hit. I was watching some information earlier today with the dairy farmers. The dairy farmers are pretty much saying that the whole program around, milk and milk production, that they're in such a dire straits that they're fearful that they're going to have to shut down milk. Now, for you individuals who need milk, think about how many products that you need milk for. I mean, dairy products is almost in almost everything that people need, people consume for food. So you've got that problem, not only with the milk, but you got the cows and things like that. And they're saying that they have no way to get to this, the milk product, and not only get to the milk product, but the processing that milk and getting that milk out into the markets, because because of the shutting down of the restaurants and all these other places, there's no one to buy the stuff, and they can't get it to the food banks because they don't have the ability to transport that stuff. And it's sooner than later, it's going to become more expensive for them to produce milk, you know what I'm saying, than to sell the milk itself. And so now they're looking at just shutting down altogether unless the federal government gets involved. Now, to help them through that. Well, if the federal government gets involved, that means now the federal government is now controlling their rationing or controlling the rationalization of product, how you get things. Again, think about the social engineering. You're getting you to line up, getting you to come out on certain times, a certain amount of people at a time, getting you accustomed to a whole different type of behavior for the full knowledge of what is coming. Probably, I would say, in the next 4 or 5 months. And that's stretching it out. It could be a lot sooner than that, but at worst 4 or 5 months. And I can tell you the same thing about seeds. You can't even get seeds. Go to a store and look for seeds. Remember how you could go to the store and find tomato seeds and corn seeds and okra and things like that? Go look for seeds. You're not going to find seeds in these stores. Why? Because they're taking seeds off the shelf. They don't want you to have access and be able to be self-sufficient. Again, social engineering, getting you to turn towards the government. Look at, again, the stimulus. If they can get you to depend on the government can promise you they're going to send you X amount of money, then sooner than later, you're going to become so dependent upon the government that the government will then dictate to you when you can come outside, when you can't come outside, how many can come outside, etc., etc., etc. That whole domino effect. You go back and let's talk again about pork production. I mean, a lot of these, Smithfield plants up in South Dakota shut down. Tyson plants all over the country shutting down. And you got other, pork, beef, chicken. I mean, I'm telling you, they are running so scarce now with product that those guys are already signaling the others that, hey, you guys better get ready for what's coming. Now let's go one step further. Are you prepared for this? Okay, and again, let's look at ammunition. I know some of you guys, as soon as someone says ammunition, you get all, nervousy and panicky and start thinking about somebody going to hurt you. Well, if you got to protect your resources, you're going to need to have ammunition. But guess what? If you wanted to go buy ammunition now, you'd have a hard time getting it. The same thing if you needed, weapons to protect. You'd have a hard time getting it. Why? Because, certain individuals were signaled years ago to go and purchase these things and get these things. And one of these guys was telling you 2 or 3 years ago to go get those things. Some of you listened, some of you didn't. But what I'm saying to you, when this food shortage hits, and it's going to hit, guys, you're not going to be able to get wheat. You're not going to be able to get seeds. You're not going to be able to get dairy products. You're not going to be able to get, beef products. You're not going to be able to get poultry. You follow me? Think about it. That's almost a full gambit of food that you're going to need. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to get government subsidies. And I'm talking about, and if you don't believe this, go look at some of the local food. The food banks are running out of food right now. I want to say it was up in Massachusetts just recently. They were talking about one of the food banks up there, I think it was Mass, opened up and they had 800 people in the line. And guess who they called to distribute the food? Come on, guess. The people in the food bank? Volunteers from the community? No. They called the National Guard in to come out and manage and distribute that food. Again, getting you accustomed to, martial law or military style of rational things, because they already know that pretty soon the shit is going to hit the fan. And when this shit hits the fan, most people, the average American is going to be ready. Now, that average American is probably 50% of, your population. Because they're the individuals who communicate effectively among one another. They signal one another. Then that other 50%, that's the low, that 50% is going to be in a hell of a lot of trouble. So you could be talking, let's just say if this country has 320 million approximate people, then you could be talking about in the neighborhood of 160 million people who are going to be starving and fully dependent upon the government and government subsidies to survive. I'm telling you. This is what you're looking to. And trust me, when I start talking, the government is never going to be willing to take and accommodate 160 million people. It can't. It doesn't have the resources to do it. I mean, China's not shipping. Japan's not shipping. Some of these Mexico is not shipping. Again, these farmers, they're already complaining that There's no one to harvest their crops. And even if someone was to harvest their crops, there's nowhere to bring the crops to because all of the businesses are closing. And someone will say, well, yeah, that's going to change. But what you're not looking at is that when they run out of these goods and when things so-called get back to normal, they're going to already be in such bad shape. It's going to be years before they can get to some sense of normalcy. Are you prepared to sustain yourself and your family for years? Because I don't think we're thinking about it. We're just thinking, well, when things open back up, it can't go back to normal, because if all of your surplus is gone, then you're going to have to build that surplus back up. My question to any of us, and to you, what do you do in the interim? What do you do between the now and the time, or when they run out and the time they're building a surplus? What are you going to do? How are you going to survive? Are you going to end up in a FEMA camp? You follow me? Remember those guillotines they were talking about, those coffins they were talking about, et cetera, et cetera? I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just simply saying, many people are going to die in those camps. Look at the refugee camps up in Africa and some of these places. What happens to those people in those refugee camps? In the beginning, it's good, but over a period of time, it starts to erode and decay, and then ultimately, it's mass chaos, and then people start coming up missing. What would make you think it could not happen here if it happens around the world? Why? Because your government is so trustworthy and love you so much that it would never let it happen here? Well, only someone who was totally ignorant of America's history would think such a thing. And even more so when you start talking about, social engineering, and then, people in desperate straits. What do when they get in desperate straits? They start hoarding things. And not only do they start hoarding things, they start singling out certain individuals who they feel that may be a threat to the things that they're hoarding. Also, they're going to look at certain human beings, other ethnic groups, so-called minorities, as a threat in terms of these are resources that we could have if we didn't have to deal with these people. And what do you think will happen to these people if it gets to, again, a shit hits the fan type of situation that's being forecast? If you go, all you got to do is just turn on the channels and look. Get away from Housewives of Atlanta and turn off, all these foolish, music videos. Put your damn PlayStations down, your Maddens down. You know what I'm saying? And get your mind focused on what's really going on globally. Because as I'll tell you something, as Hebrew Israelites, we are always the last to know. Because we're always the ones who don't read the signs. And we should be the sign readers. We're supposed to be. But we long ago lost our ability to do that because we got to that point where we started to think that, life is about, I guess a house, two cars, and whatever. Because, again, we took our eyes off of Yah and started looking at, man. We started serving the creature versus the creator. And so the creator just said, okay, well, these people are not built to be able to sustain, pettiness and lack of preparation. These people are trained to be prepared and always to think forward. But now they have succumbed to the cares of the world, to the cares of this life, and now they're going to suffer disproportionately because of it. And that's scripture, but I just gave you an interpretation. I broke down scripture for you just that quick. You follow me? So now you have to come back and ask yourself the question, where's your focus? Have you start putting things aside? Or are you getting so excited about the government giving you subsidies that if the government can give you subsidies to survive, can't the government take those subsidies from you so you can die? So you're willing to put your fate in the hands of a government who is going to, at the end of the day, is going to do whatever they believe is the right thing for the government, you follow me, to be able to move, to continue on as it plans to be. Some people call, the New World Order. Now, these are serious issues, guys, things you need to be thinking about. These are things you need to be, again, communicating with your family members about. And those who are in your family who want to be aloof or who want to be dismissive, then cut them off. I said it to you before. Some people going to die. Some people you love are going to die, i.e. the coronavirus. The people who were not healthy, people who, in some cases, I realized that it had nothing to do with them in terms of, some of these health issues were generational issues or, generically passed down. But there were others who just couldn't walk away from the pizza, the drugs, you follow me, the other things that deteriorated their bodies, and now they're paying the price for that. So you have to think in terms of, who is it that's going to be with you, and who is it that you're going to have to leave behind. The last thing I'll say, you go back and you think of the story of Noah, with the great flood. And in the scripture says that only Noah, and his sons, and their wives were saved. And we look at that, 8 people saved. We're like, well, see what the Most High protected, Noah, and his family. Well, you don't think Noah had relatives? Cousins, aunts, uncles? You don't think he had an extended family? What happened to those people? There's nothing in the scripture that tells you about that. That was omitted from the scripture. I know what happened. When Noah and his immediate family went in the ark, he had to get his mind off of what was going to happen to the rest of them, because they should have been prepared as he and his sons and daughters-in-laws had prepared themselves. And that's going to be the reality that you're going to have to deal with in terms of individuals who just want to be dismissive, who's not taking this serious, who are wasteful. Again, the resources that they got, that resource should have been right there buying things that are essential to survival. And again, I know you're looking at it. I saw a picture of Walmart the other day, and all those little platforms, those little islands they have with big screen televisions, those things were wiped out. Because what did many people do? And most of those people look like me and you, Hebrew Israelites, went right in there and bought very things that have no value in terms of sustaining themselves over a long period of time. Well, I can always go trade the television. No, you can't. Nobody in his right mind going to give you resources for a damn television when in a shit hits the fan type of scenario. So again, you may have to make those tough decisions as it relates to family members, but beyond that, take and store up goods. There's going to be a shortage on flour, vegetables, milk, cows. I'm talking about pork, beef, poultry, seafood. I'm telling you guys, unless you want to be eating out of a ration box, you need to take what I'm saying to heart and take action. And again, if you get so sick because you're not healthy, what do you think they're going to do? Let you stay around everybody else? No, they're going to move you into these FEMA camps, and that's where they're going to let you die a miserable death. That's what's going to happen to you. They're not going to let the sick stay among the healthy. Not when they've already used this coronavirus thing to get everybody all worked up to the point where, they're trying to condition us now that, you can't come outside now if you don't have, your gear on, whatever. Okay. I don't want to get into that. I understand the hygienic aspects of this, but if you go back and do your own research on, does a mask and washing your hands keep you safe? It does not. Can it minimize your exposure? Yes, it can. But that in and of itself is not going to stop you from being confronted with a contagion. That's not, way more to do, you have to do other than that. You literally have to quarantine yourself in a sealed place, where nothing can come in if you're really talking about seriously trying to not get sick. Like many of them do on the underground in their bunkers. That's what real quarantine looks like. Walking around with a face mask and plastic gloves on your hand, guys. That's just some of the simulation just to make you feel safer. At the end of the day, that is not gonna, stop you from getting coronavirus or any other pandemic or disease that may be coming our way, real soon, man-made or nature-wise. Okay? So the long and the short of this message is food shortages are already on their way, guys, and it's going to be way more serious than you think. If you don't have resources to protect yourself, to feed yourself, to clothe yourself, to hoard yourself, to insulate yourself, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. You're going to be in a lot of trouble. Okay? And again, what can we do? As the scripture says, a voice crying in the wilderness. Tell the people to prepare themselves. But if they listen, they will be saved. If they don't listen, then they will be damned. And that's all, not only just myself, but many others very similar to myself are crying, and not crying, but crying aloud. In other words, speaking out and warning you, get prepared because it's coming. Last thing, and I said a moment ago, one of my Gideon Fright brothers, Brother James, was showing some videos this morning up in Boston in all these military vehicles. He saw 3 different military vehicles on the roads with him on his way to work this morning. 3 of them. 3 different instances. So, if you remember, Trump already activated 1 million National Guard. You think he activated them because he doesn't know that a crisis is coming, a food shortage is coming, it's going to be chaotic out here? People are going to be fighting and doing whatever, rioting and looting and murdering, to get food. You don't think he knows that already? You don't think your Congress and your, people, they know that? Of course they know that. That's why they're releasing these prisoners and things. They realize it's going to be at some point, you're not going to be able to put everybody in jail. So, why not just let the petty ones out? Because before you know, they're going to be a bunch of petty thieves, crooks, and what have you. Again, when resources are not available and the basic needs for survival are not there, people will do things that you would never imagine. People you love will do things to you that you would never imagine. Not all, but some will. So again, he's activated the National Guard because he knows as soon as that whistle blows, and I don't know when that whistle is going to blow, a week, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, when that whistle blows, they're going to be on your door, on your streets, and they're going to be collecting and gathering people. Oh, they got the disease. Oh, they didn't get vaccinated. Oh, they don't have their papers. And these people are going to be, swished away. And in many cases, you may never see these people again. That's what's coming. And it'll be under the guise of protecting you in the best interest of society, things like that. But no, there's another underlying, motive there. And that is depopulation of the planet, along with making sure that, they keep saving the resources that they need for that 500 million on the planet to survive. All right? That's all I got for you right now. You can take heed. You can blow me off. That's all okay. There's no offense taken. If you say, oh, he's done no, there's no offense taken. But if you're smart, you may live to say, you know what, I'm glad I listened to that guy. All right? Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye now.